It's connecting. Got Facebook. YouTube is taking a second. Okay, we're online.
This is Andrea Yount. We are preparing for Therapy Thursday, our weekly broadcast on mental health topics. Therapy Thursday is brought to you by Affinity Counseling Services and A Lovely Pause. This is a test.
Affinity Counseling Services is located in Piggott, Arkansas, and Kennett, Missouri. We currently have 4 therapists in our office and are taking new clients. To join our waiting list, visit counselingwithaffinity.com, and to find out more, call me Kindred at 870-324-5122 or 573-840-0440. Thank you.
A Lovely Pause is a local nonprofit created to provide community education, awareness, coping skills, and support, and other trauma-related disorders. I totally messed that up, you guys, because that makes no sense. I read that and I was like, what? That makes no sense. So, A Lovely Pause is a local nonprofit created to provide community education, awareness, coping skills, and support to people with PTSD and other trauma-related disorders. This month, subscribers to our newsletter will receive a free Parenting Pause checklist. Use this tool to help determine what you're feeling and what type of parenting pause you need to take. Use the checklist to help you find ways to ground yourself and be a great example of emotional maturity for your kids. Sign up at alovelypause.com or visit us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This is a test.
All right.
Therapy Thursday normalizes discussing mental health topics in a safe, supportive environment because not being normal is normal.
Welcome, everyone, to Therapy Thursday, our weekly installment here at Affinity Counseling Services, where we talk about different mental health topics from a personal and professional perspective. My name is Matthew Yount, lead therapist and president here at Affinity. To my right, my wife, Andrea.
Hey.
Let's see, vice president of Affinity and chairman, is that right?
It's fine. Chair of the board, president.
Chairperson.
A Lovely Pause.
A Lovely Pause, our nonprofit organization, or your nonprofit organization, not mine. And then behind the camera, as always, is Kindred.
Hello.
Kindred is our secretary office manager here at Affinity, and then secretary of A Lovely Pause.
Mm-hmm. Taking your questions, comments,
And concerns.
And concerns.
No one ever has any concerns, thank goodness.
Are you concerned today?
What are you concerned about? Let us know, or don't let us know.
In
Maybe
the
we don't.
comments below.
So it's just me, Andrea, and Kindred today. Stacy is out, so we'll be tackling this topic.
I'm pretty exhausted.
Yeah, so it's me today.
So you're
today,
rolling.
I'm sorry.
You're rolling with this, you guys.
All right. Well,
I chugged an iced coffee before I came in here, and I was like, that'll do.
good. All right, you're going to get a caffeine rant on parenting today. Here we go. Well, with April's topic, we are talking about parenting.
Yes.
And for the first week, we are talking about becoming a parent.
Yes.
So before we get into that, why don't you tell us a little bit what you've got going on this weekend for your fundraiser for A Lovely Pause?
Saturday, April 9th, we are having our first public event to just let the town, the community, get a little bit of information about who we are and what we're doing. We are going to be having some hamburgers that we're going to be giving away, some food and drinks, some drawings, some contests, face paint, all kinds of fun things.
Bouncy houses.
The bouncy house.
Well, I'm not sure what they're bringing, but Bouncy Boys
Bouncy stuff.
Bouncy Boys Inflatables is coming. A few other places in town are going to come and be there. Just a few others.
Well, I would assume they would have inflatables.
I'm assuming. I told them they could bring whatever they wanted to set up.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah, but I'm not sure what they're bringing. They have a lot of things. So
Yeah, cool.
I'm not sure what they're bringing or what they're doing.
I'm just excited
But they're going to
about
be
it.
there. We are having a online Pie in the Face event. You can donate to vote for your person that you want to see get a pie in the face. Right now, Matt's winning. So If you want him to keep winning, keep voting for Matt.
Wait till I
Or if
send
you
out
want-
my text today. I'm really going to be kicking
If you
butt
want
after
somebody
that.
else to win, then you better get on there because he's winning and he's got plans. He's wanting to win. Apparently, he likes cream pie in the face.
Yeah, well, more so, it's just about raising money for you. And if it takes embarrassing myself as a means to do that, I have no problem with that.
All the money, all proceeds from this event, everything's for donation only. And whatever donation you give, you get to enjoy the day. But all proceeds go to A Lovely Paws and help us to reach our goal, which is $5,000 by this fall, so that we can begin to help our first clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's cool. So that's at the Pavilion here in Piggott at, 10 o'clock?
The First National Bank Pavilion,
Yeah.
April 9th at 10 o'clock to 2 p.m.
Sweet. All righty. And there'll be all sorts of fun stuff. So show up, and they can vote there too, right?
Yes, we will be voting until 1:45 on Saturday, and then we will be live streaming the pie in the face.
So I'll have to come from martial arts if I want to get that done.
Yes.
That's fine. Just let me know if I need to be there, and I'll show up. I'll try not to be too sweaty by the time I get there. But
we're gonna have to talk about that a little bit later.
oh, and what am I supposed to be like well dressed when that
No,
happens?
we'll just talk about it.
Oh,
Let's
okay.
just move on.
No, I wanted to talk about it in a way that you weren't ready for, because you appreciate that and you like talking off topic about things. All right, so here we go. We're talking about parenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Teach me the ways.
I don't know that I know the ways. We're just winging it. Every one of us are winging it as a parent. We're just doing the best we can. I mean,
That's next week's topic.
what is it? Oh, am I doing it right? Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Well, today we were talking about becoming a parent, though.
Yes, we are.
So some people, this is a thought out decision. Others, it's, oops, well, I guess we're about to be parents.
Either way, there are plenty of ranges of emotions that you go through in becoming a parent before you even have a child.
Yeah, yeah. So I can think back to our experience. I mean, we planned it out. Yeah, so what pops into your head when you think about us thinking about becoming parents?
It was a little traumatic for us.
Well, it was.
Quite a bit traumatic. So
Yeah.
I don't really like thinking about it, honestly.
Yeah, no, fair enough. But that is one of the things that we do share on here is vulnerable moments.
Yeah.
As long as they're not too vulnerable. But I mean, we had a few that didn't work out.
Yeah,
And-
it was hard. It was difficult, and it was one of the most petty. I feel I guess not petty, but that it kind of is petty that I've ever been, because I had a friend at the time who just had a baby born in the family, and it was hard for me to even hear my friend talk about her new baby, because I was mad about it. Like,
Yeah.
why do they get a new baby and I don't get a new baby? And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it was a lot of angry, jealous, not good emotions that I had to confront in myself.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's very understandable. It's a difficult time when you're trying for something so important like that. Especially if it's not working out or something difficult happens, then yeah, it's really hard to deal with, and it creates a lot of difficult feelings. And I think it's only understandable. I mean, you call it petty, but petty seems to be making light of the actual emotions that you're experiencing at that point.
I mean, I just mean like I was
Jealous
just,
does make sense.
Jealous,
Envious.
yeah, very envious. Yeah, I guess petty isn't the right word. But it feels kind of petty. To
Well,
be
I think
so
that's you
angry about.
downplaying it. Because a lot of times people do downplay their own negative emotions. Like, when it's just an interesting thing about people. When we feel like we've done something negative, we try to put something a lot of times in a light that makes it feel minimized or even like we're just being ridiculous. And the word petty kind of gives the sense of, well, I'm just being ridiculous. But I think in that circumstance, it's incredibly understandable
Yeah.
to be envious or resentful or
But
hurt.
It wasn't. I didn't like that about myself at all, and it was something that I really had to confront and deal with, because it was right there in my face, and I was having these feelings very, very overwhelmingly, and so I had to confront that and deal with it, and it wasn't something that was fun.
Right. So that's I'll tell you one of the difficult parts about becoming a parent for me. I mean, you had already had 3 kids from your previous marriage before you and I decided to have a kid together. And the hardest part for me was all of the things that come with being a new parent. It was like worrying about the pregnancy, especially because of the other two experiences. And then it was like, okay, how do we do this whole delivery thing? And then it was after that, it was like every noise that he wasn't making.
My goodness. He was my fourth child. He was Matt's first. I wanted to sleep. He woke me up every time the baby made a noise.
Or didn't make a noise.
Or didn't make a noise. It was I wanted to punch him in the face some nights.
Well, because
It's like, I'm trying to sleep here.
Well, because
you check on the baby.
I didn't know
He's fine.
what we were supposed to be hearing or not hearing, and I was worried about, SIDS or something like that. So I was just nerve wracked didn't know what I was supposed to be hearing and not hearing.
I can't talk too much, honestly, because, Avery was my first child, and she slept into my arms for the first 3 years of her life. Like, she did not leave my arms for the first 3 years of her life, probably. So,
Yeah.
or 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we all do that overwhelming protectiveness on our first kid, our first baby. We all have that. So that's another emotion that you feel is like, oh my gosh, I've got to take care of this little bitty thing.
Yeah.
And it's my responsibility. And if I don't take care of it, then something really bad happens. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a lot of pressure in the beginning to just even know if you're doing anything the right way. And I can't tell you that gets a whole lot better, but it's hard in the beginning because they are so helpless. They're completely dependent on you. There is no way they can survive without you. So you have to try to inherently know everything that you're supposed to do, and you just hope you learned it right from the people that taught you. And even if you're trying to study up on it, you don't know what you're supposed to study. You don't know if some expert's actually right or not. I mean, you can get a TikTok expert that's like, well, they don't really know anything, but they're just pretending that they do. Or, you could read best-selling books, but then people later are like, well, that best-selling book was full of crap. No, you don't go by that one anymore. That's terrible advice. So you don't really ever know who to fully trust. So mostly you're just trusting your gut. And if you have a hard time trusting your gut, then it really gets chaotic. Like, how do I calm them down? How do I calm myself down? What do I do when I'm exhausted all the time because I'm not getting any sleep? It's a difficult thing to traverse. And I can't imagine, like, having to traverse it on my own. Like, you went through quite a little bit of time there, or quite a bit of time of basically parenting by yourself. So for those out there who do that or who need to understand it better, what are the challenges of parenting, especially really young kids, by yourself?
Having to be 17,000 places at once.
Yeah.
I feel that way now, but I felt that way like times a million when the kids were younger. Mm-hmm. And it's overwhelming because you don't have any time to do anything for yourself or anything extra, because you're constantly having to play catch up because you're never in the right spot at the right time. Like, you know what I mean? You're always playing catch up.
Yeah.
With everything.
So you're playing catch up. You got 1,000 things to do. You got to play both roles in that circumstance. And it's just, I would assume, and also because you're working or trying to go to school or doing all of those things at the same time, it's got to be exhausting.
Yeah, and then like your kids don't get the time that you feel like they need, so then you're motivated by guilt to be able to spend time with them when really you feel bad, and it's just this cycle.
Yeah. I think the other difficult thing that happens in relationships where there's a couple is that now that there's a kid there, things change. Like what things do you notice that changes the most when now a kid is introduced into the situation?
Their dynamic changes, right? So like you lose friends, you figure out who your friends are when you have a kid, because some of your friends will be happy about it, and some of them will want you to still kind of be the way that you were before you had kids, and that's not necessarily possible. So,
so your priorities have changed.
Yeah, your priorities change. You lose friends, you lose hobbies, and then sometimes even if it turns out to be if your partner is overwhelmed, then maybe your partner feels like they need to go back and do these other things that they're more comfortable with, and you're left dealing with it on your own, whether you're a man or a woman. I've seen it go either way.
Yeah.
So you can be overwhelmed with all the things because somebody else doesn't want to be overwhelmed with it.
Yeah.
Or you can be left, by people that you thought weren't going to leave you because your priorities have changed.
Yeah, and there's also like even in a healthy relationship, right, where two people wanted this and they're committed to working together to raise a kid the right way. But there can also be we used to do a lot more stuff together.
Yeah.
Or you used to fulfill more needs for me than you do now because now we have to fulfill needs for this kid. And so we start to get feelings of envy or jealousy. And that can be like frustrating, especially if you love your kid, but you're also feeling envious of what your kid is getting versus attention and you're not. But then both of you can be too tired for intimacy or even connection. You don't do things as much as you used to. And sometimes the classic idea of what happens is like the mom's attention goes toward being mom, and now like being a wife or a partner is now not a priority.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're even like telling their partner like, leave me alone. I don't want to meet your needs right now. I'm busy right here.
Right.
And so it's like losing the identity.
Their priorities changed in that.
Right.
Yeah.
But some people, and this happens quite a bit, some people they did everything to become a parent, and now that they are a parent, they're absorbed with it,
Yeah.
and which is kind of why they did it. Some people have a kid because it fills a need
Yeah.
or a hole in their life, and they want somebody that needs them, somebody they can caretake for, and really just the other person was a means to get that. They're like, I don't really like this relationship all that much, but I do want a kid, so kind of need you for that. Once they get it, then they're like, well, okay, you're good now. Don't need you anymore. Got my baby. And they just push the other partner to the side, and that can really cause deep resentment and jealousy. And that can be conscious or unconscious. Most of the time it's unconscious. It just kind of starts happening, and the other person doesn't understand why, and even the parent who's wanting that so bad doesn't understand why. And so there can be a massive shift in the dynamic of the relationship, and it causes a lot of envy or jealousy or problems, and communication goes out the window. And then now you've got two people caring for a little child who now are arguing with each other or don't like each other very much in that moment.
Yeah.
So it can create, but now in a dynamic where people communicate, like I don't really feel like that happened with us very much at all because we continued to communicate. We were open about what we felt. We were willing to meet each other's needs.
We've always talked about our values and stuff, and whenever we got off of that, we came back to that. There have been times we've got off of that and been overwhelmed or, whatever, but we've come back to that, and that's helpful. I feel like, sometimes too that a woman will become so wrapped up in taking care of, the children, or the husband may become wrapped up in so much in taking care of being the provider and making sure he's providing and doing all these things that that they forget about each other. That's one of the biggest things that happens.
Sure.
Even in a healthy relationship, like, oh, I got to take care of the kids, and these are priority. And then the husband's over here, and he's like, oh, I got to do and you're doing the things, and you love each other, and you're both trying to do the things, but you're worried too much about your responsibilities to be able to come back together.
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
And
So
that's why it's important to communicate and come back to those values.
Yeah, and then you even get into the things of like nowadays, both people have to work, so now they're both worried about providing.
Exactly.
And then if you have ideals about what parents should do what, then you may be coming home like, oh, I've just been working all day. I'm just going to chill out. And you got the kid, don't you? And it's like, hey, I've been working all day too.
Exactly, right, yeah.
So we get into these ideas of like, do you even understand what your unconscious biases are related
Right,
to
your parenting roles.
to parenting roles.
Or household roles.
Because I don't think there aren't many roles that I ever saw that I was like, well, that's not my job. Obviously I couldn't breastfeed, but most things I never looked at because I wanted to erase that idea of like, well, that's not a dad's job. I don't care if it's got to be done. Let's just get it done because it's a kid. We both need to be doing this together. And if there are things you're better at than I am, then obviously, if you're capable, you need to be doing those things because I'm not the one who's good at it. I cannot make a diaper fit very well. I can change it, but it don't fit very well.
It would always end up outside of the diaper.
It's gonna leak.
He was not a good diaper changer.
No,
I
not
don't
at all.
understand how somebody can be such a terrible diaper changer.
No, okay. The little sticky tabs always stuck in the wrong.
He didn't
parts.
do it tight enough. He was too afraid to squeeze the baby, I think. I'm like,
Yeah, you're like wrapping that kid in.
and he's like,
It's gotta be like a belt, hold it up.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to like cut off circulation or anything, so I just wouldn't do it tight enough. Or I would get one side tight and the other side loose, so it would get lopsided. I just was never good at
there was
it.
many blowouts if he changed the, if
Yes.
he changed the diaper.
So I wasn't against it. I just wasn't good at it. So you were much better at that than me. But there was plenty of times, I fed the kids or, got up with them or had to do things. And I think it's an important thing that you just have to work it out in your relationship because, if one person is staying home with the kids and one person works, it makes sense to let that person get some sleep who works. But there are times where that person who's been home all day is exhausted
And
and
has
even
had a harder day than the
Yep.
person at work.
yeah, so you're just going to have to be like, okay, I'm just going to be tired tomorrow, but they need their rest because they've been home with the kids and they're just worn out. And the other part of it, I think, when a parent is home with kids all the time is like they have no adult interaction.
Yeah.
So they're like, I
remember
just
that.
need an adult to talk to.
You would get home and I'd be like, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yes,
That was a while ago.
absolutely. Yeah. No, in the early phases of our relationship, yeah, I absolutely remember that. But I didn't mind because I like talking to you.
Yeah.
But so even though I was tired, I still like talking to you. So I don't look at it as a chore to like, oh, I got to listen to her now.
Yeah.
It's like, I like listening to you. So, but it was important to recognize that's what you needed. You needed adult
Yeah.
interaction.
And, that's why I feel like it's when you become a parent, your values do change, your priorities change, like we talked about. And that's why I feel like it's important at any time you change your life. You go from being dating to being married, you go from being married to having children or whatever. Go back and revisit your values. Do them on your own and do them together like we do. Make sure that you've got your values matching. That way you can together both be like, okay, but this is what we said was important to us. And you make it a lot easier to prioritize the things that you're doing because, if you're spending a lot of time at work, that's easy to justify, right? Because you're providing for the family. But if you're spending so much time at work that it's taking away from your family time and your family is supposed to be a priority or a value above your business, then it's more easy. It's like, look, this is where our values are.
Sure. Yeah, so it helps redirect your attention if possible.
Yes.
There's some times that you're just in such a
Right.
situation you're going to have to work your butt off and,
For sure.
and that sucks. But I get your point is it redirects you if you need redirecting and can
Yes.
redirect.
Yes.
So there's that. Now here's another thing about becoming a parent is the way it can change your psychology. So automatically with the priority shifts, that changes. There's also like postpartum depression is a real,
Oh, yeah.
real thing.
For sure.
And sometimes it's postpartum depression. Sometimes people have like previous history of trauma, and there's something about like the birth or like the change in hormones that can bring some of that out or make it more difficult. So it may be like triggered PTSD from the hormone fluctuations and all the stress you've been through. It can re-trigger anxiety or depression. It can make someone's OCD worse to now have like all this responsibility. So there's a whole host of ways that it can change somebody. And I think one of the worst is postpartum because I've noticed that in some of the more severe cases, it makes a woman like unable to even want to connect with their child. It's like the chemical necessity that it's there to create bonding isn't present. And a lot of times they feel a lot of shame about that or other people make them feel shame about it. Now, I only know about postpartum from a clinical perspective, and even my perspective there is limited. I haven't treated a lot of people with postpartum, just a few, but I send most of them for medications, and then we just start monitoring that and seeing how well that's working. I don't know, have you ever experienced any forms of postpartum?
No, I mean, I was really stressed during, after some of them, but I don't remember ever feeling like not like a disconnect or anything like that from my kids.
Have you known people that have?
I'm sure I have.
Yeah?
I don't know.
Just can't think of any
I don't
offhand?
know the details of
Oh,
it.
yeah,
You know
sure.
what I
They
mean?
didn't
I
share
don't
it.
know. And so I know it's a real thing, and I know that your hormones can really fluctuate and be. And I mean, I know I felt my own self just top and then bottom and then top and then bottom. So just staying on that bottom, I can't. I can't imagine the feelings that come up just from being there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So,
And then so I would say that with that, it's if you're recognizing psychological symptoms afterwards, there's no shame in that. It's probably a chemical thing. You need to get a doctor's assistance immediately. Don't let that get worse. Just like, well, I think it'll get better, or I'll just force myself through this. It can really get bad. I mean, it can get bad to a point of having psychosis,
Yeah.
where people start to hallucinate or become delusional. They start to have like negative thoughts about hurting their child. So all of that, you don't want to let it get to that point. Is if you start noticing that you just can't make a bond or a connection, or you're super depressed afterwards, it's time to get help as soon as possible. And I think another thing that was interesting is that some people, once after they have a kid and then the time has passed where you can actually start becoming pregnant again, then people start getting back on birth control, and then they recognize that their hormones have changed. And then there's now I'm back on a birth control I was using before, and all of a sudden it's making me feel
That
insane.
happened to me.
It did. I was just thinking of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walk us through that. What was that experience like?
Well, I've had trouble with birth control off and on my whole life, but after I had Maddox, I got back on a birth control I had been on before. And no, it was before I had Maddox, but it was after being pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I got back on a birth control I had before. And it made me feel like I was worthless. I needed to run away. My family was better off without me. Like, I didn't feel like I needed to hurt myself, but I felt like I needed to just that it was for everyone's best interest if I just wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't need these thoughts, And so I told you about them and tried the birth control, got off the birth control, and that's what was it.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Yeah, we just recognized that that's
was
probably what it was.
Yeah.
So, but your chemistry had changed. And so because of that, your hormones that you were taking did not work right anymore.
Right.
And so that were associated with that birth control. So we had to come up with a new solution to that, but we had to recognize it first. So there's a lot of communication that has to go on throughout the early stages of parenting. The pregnancy, the delivery. Boy, the delivery was crazy. Yeah, the delivery is a crazy, crazy process. It's if you're not prepared for it, it can knock you on your butt, especially if you're from the perspective of I've never seen this before. And it didn't bother me at all. I think I was just coaching you because I used to coach MMA fighters. So I was down there right next to her going, "You got this. Come on, just breathe, breathe, breathe."
Yeah, it was.
Did it help?
Yeah. I mean,
I kept her focused. I knew how to keep people focused because I've kept people focused under stress a lot of times. So I was like, she's just stressed out. Keep her focused. Oh, it's doing good. You got this. Yeah, I was coaching her. You could hear me from out in the hall. But some people, they're not prepared for things like that. And so they see that much blood or whatever else is going on, and they're like, okay, I don't know how to process this
why
right
a lot of
now.
people pass out.
Yeah, it is.
No, that's gonna be me.
Nah, you don't even know what's going. I mean, I knew what was going on, but you're not thinking about that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and especially once the epidural kicks in, there's a bit of numbing that goes on.
Yeah.
But your epidural didn't fully kick in.
They messed up my epidural with Maddox, and so they had to come redo it, and they did it after I was already at 8.
Yeah.
And so I went through transition and had him, and then my epidural kicked in.
Whoa.
It was nice.
Yeah, but I mean, you made it through it. And you did a great job. I mean, you took it like you were a pro through the whole thing. I mean, you'd done it 3 times before, but you were a pro through it, and it didn't bother me at all to be there. I didn't look, but some people, like, they feel like I can't look at you the same after seeing that. And if that happens, I suggest you get therapy for that, because you can work through that.
It's definitely a traumatic experience, and not just for the baby.
No,
and,
it isn't.
And that's just a regular delivery.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if you had a really difficult delivery, that can be very traumatic, especially like if the partner like almost died, or in some cases did, or like there was like a long time in the NICU afterwards. There's a whole lot of trauma that can happen just during the delivery process. So.
And all of this is before you even become a parent.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's in that moment of first becoming a parent, right?
Yeah, or you just have the baby.
Yeah, like early stages. I consider you're in parenthood, like when you're having a kid. Once there's pregnancy, you're in parenthood at that
for
point, because
sure.
there's a whole process that's
Yeah.
going on at that point,
You go-
getting ready for that kid to be in your life.
You go through the hormonal changes. You start going through those. You start, developing a human. And so whether you lose that baby or not, you are a parent.
Yeah.
You have experienced that emotion.
Yep, absolutely. So that's like but that's got whole chapters and books written
Yes.
all on its own. So there's a lot there. So it's a rewarding experience, but it's a very tough experience, and it's something that we really have to pay attention to, is the communication that goes on. So if you feel like that you're having difficulty with, like, maybe becoming a parent, or you had crisis at that point, trauma, whatever it is, therapy is good for that. We're here to help. You can reach out to us if you're needing therapy services at Affinity Counseling Services on Facebook, or our website, counselingwithaffinity.com. You can sign up there. We just typically refer people to sign up there anyway, so that would be a good first place to go. Or you can contact us by phone, 870-324-5122. For Arkansas, or for Missouri at 573-840-0440. Is there anything that we need to address?
No comment. No comments today.
No comments or concerns today? All
No
right,
concerns. We even asked.
Good. Good. I'm glad nobody's concerned. Well, looking forward to the event this weekend. You can tell me what my role needs to be. We'll talk about that off air. Looking forward to seeing how many people come out. Please make it. We would really enjoy it. Again, that is this Saturday, April 9th, 10 to 2. We'll have food, games, clown, bouncy house, maybe, bouncy something, cool stuff. All right. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.